Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. So, millions of credits per minute was actually a thing this week in Elite, at least for a short while, and mining missions have now been temporarily removed from the game because of it. Essentially, a player could accept a mining mission to mine 10 units of osmium and gain a reward of 30 osmium plus credits. So this meant that you could accept the next mining mission and instantly complete it, therefore gaining an ever-increasing amount of osmium and credits at an insanely fast rate. And of course this worked with other metals as well. So for now then, the game is absent both mining missions and skimmer missions. So this was clearly unintended game mechanics and obviously over excessive rewards. But these recent issues with credit gold rushes, engineer changes and new Guardian unlocks have certainly got a lot of people talking over recent days. Are high credit payouts good or bad? Does Elite Dangerous perhaps have too much grind? And of course that insipid grind is in the mind ridiculous meme. The trouble is that it's impossible to discuss any of this without at least one person mistakenly thinking you're calling for easy mode. But then it's quite likely that they are missing the entire point of what you're saying. And after all, what is the measurement of difficulty within Elite Dangerous? Could it perhaps be progression? Well, Elite Dangerous is such a wide open game with objectives that are so vaguely defined even by the game itself that perhaps some people would consider progress as a concept within a game to be actually meaningless. Progression then means a whole lot of different things to a whole lot of different people. Whether you're into earning credits, gathering materials or unlocking new technology, these things are all about getting from A to B or achieving a certain goal. People who want to achieve their goals in Elite will often have to jump through hoops in a repeating fashion in order to achieve them. In principle, there is nothing wrong with this, as it's an age-old gaming concept from Pong to Jet Set Willy or Sonic through to Street Fighter. Players repeat the same gameplay loop to achieve their objective. Many modern games, however, split their gaming loops into ever-granular segments. For example, with platform games, players perfected their skill in a game until they were able to complete the various areas and ultimately complete the game. This formula changed somewhat with games like Metroid and Castlevania, where progress within a map was blocked until the in-game character achieved a certain skill or gained a set equipment. That is to say, the gaming loop moved away from being 100% dependent upon player skill and entered the character ability as a factor. Over time, this morphed even further. In-game characters didn't just collect a new skill or ability, but rather had to go through an entire process to achieve that objective, often filling up UI bars as a measure of progression. In many cases, this took significant time. It also changed the focus of these types of games from being about completing the map towards collecting the upgrade and then completing the map. Essentially then, this new mechanic was an unlock process to access required items or skills. The trouble was that many games started to abuse this mechanic. The more involved the game got, the longer the unlock process would actually take. The grind became very real. Eventually, this process was monetized by companies who realized they could make a profit from it, pay to speed up the unlock or pay outright for the skill or item, alternatively increase the length of the time it takes to unlock these items in order to increase player retention. After all, the longer the process, the longer time players are likely to stick around. And let's not forget that the more unscrupulous companies realized that unlocks could completely replace game content. Nowadays, many players quite rightly enjoy the unlock process, or let's actually use the word, many players actually enjoy the grind process. Other players see the grind as an obstacle, whilst some see grind everywhere, even in places it doesn't exist. Other players still refuse to believe that grind is a reality, despite that grind is an objective fact and that many game developers actively talk about it. But I don't really want to get into that entire argument, as it is certainly one of semantics and perhaps in some cases even willful blindness on behalf of certain players. So how does this relate to Elite Dangerous at any rate? Well, ultimately it directly affects the perception of progression, because these unlocks form how players often measure their progress. Credits determine which ship you can buy, unlocking engineers determines what you can achieve with said ship, and gathering materials affects what you can do with said engineers, and so on. The great thing with Elite is that there are many avenues to pursue the game. You can explore and head out into any one of 400 billion star systems, you can trade and build up credits, Or you can focus on building up an ever better ship. There are many other ways besides this as well to actually play the game. But the game is, without a doubt, open-ended. Gone are the days where you have to reach a completion screen, so that is no longer a measurement of progress. But it cannot be denied that the game itself does measure player progress. You only have to take a quick look at all the progress bars to see this. In fact, there are so many progress bars in every area of the game that as a player you have to force yourself to look beyond them in order to actually see the true game world. Is it then really any wonder why Elite has a reputation for being a hard and prolonged grind? That said, it would be unfair to force that label on Elite without also discussing how players can approach the game. The great number of activities within the game do genuinely mean that you don't have to grind. Playing Elite is a process. It's a journey through which players travel from one objective to the next, but it would also be a complete lie and perhaps a little delusional to deny the grind. It's right there in front of us after all. The really interesting thing about all of this though is that really this video is not about the grind. That's not really what I wanted to talk about. The video is actually about progression within Elite, but such is the nature of the game that it's impossible to discuss progression without also discussing grind. With all of that out of the way then, what is progression within Elite? Well, the only answer to that is perhaps an obvious one, and in many ways actually sidesteps some of the issues. But the truth is, Elite has been developed in such a way that everyone is going to give you a different answer. For me, and remember this is just my personal opinion, but for me, I measure progression by the amount of activities I can access without any undue gateways. What's that? There's a Thargoid interceptor over there and it's fun to kill it? Great, I'll be over in a fully outfitted Anaconda in just a moment. Ah, so there's an awesome area of players out in Colonia, 26,000 light years away. Great, let me go and get a ship with a huge jump range and I'll be right over. Oh, look at all those nice engineer upgrades. Good thing I have a ton of materials ready and easily accessible. To me, personally, this is how I measure progress. The further I get into the game and the more I achieve, the easier it becomes for me to do these things. And in this context, easy doesn't mean instant gratification. It's not about difficulty. What it means is that I'm rewarded for all the time I've already spent in the game. Then I'm not locked behind a time gateway preventing me from accessing awesome content such as Thargoid battles. As an extension to this, I also see credits as a form of progress measurement. The more credits I have, the easier it becomes for me to access the things I truly want to do. I'd actually be quite happy to sit on a pile of 100 billion credits, as this would only enhance my enjoyment of the game and certainly in no way detract from it. But there's a very real problem here, isn't there? The means by which this progress is measured is in number form. Credits are a bank balance, ships and modules are an asset owned, engineers are unlocked through repeating game loops, and materials are gained over the course of lengthy amounts of time. And this is where the question of balance comes into the game. What is a reasonable time factor for gateways that limit players' experience of the game? Well, ultimately that is up to Frontier to decide, and it really is in their hands. But all players are going to have an opinion on that, and many of these opinions, quite rightly, are going to be very strong. If that game balance is weighted in the wrong direction, it causes a lot of problems. The game is either consumed too quickly, or alternatively, players feel that they are unable to make progress, and that can lead players to incessantly looking for progression exploits. Elite is without a doubt a great game, one of the best I've played for a very, very long time in fact, but I do question that the game balance in terms of how progression takes place. So, what are your thoughts on progression? What does it mean to you, and how do you measure it? I'd love to hear from you. Do let me know in the comment section below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.